We've seen enough. There's still just under 5 minutes left. Avs Canadiens from the Bell Center in Montreal. But Megan, just overall, not the Avs night on several different fronts. It felt like they were fighting the puck, beating it up a bit, and just didn't have it tonight. Scott Wedgwood, I'm going to say struggled, and I don't mean like he gave up a bunch of bad goals, but like he was fighting the puck. It's taking weird bounces off of the net, off of the boards, off of him, off of defenders. It was a tough night for the Avs just across the board. And even when it looked like they started to chip away maybe a little bit in the third, they give it right back immediately. Montreal re-extends their 3-goal lead, excuse me. And really that's kind of been it. Like I said, just under 5 minutes to go. We do still have the game on here in studio. So in case anything crazy happens, we'll have all those updates for you guys. But with 4:50 left in this game, the Avs are down 7-3. Like I said off the top, you and I felt we had seen enough. Your thoughts on tonight?
Yeah, they didn't do enough to win the hockey game. And I don't even think that there's enough bad bounces to say that's the reason why they lost too. Because I think with each bad bounce, there was an instance of a bad decision too, coupled with the bad bounce. It's like, and that bad decision wasn't necessarily why there was the bad bounce. It was just an unlucky thing. But also the bad decision kind of put you in the spot where the bad bounce made you pay so much. And so the issue is right now, they just don't look like themselves. And you could chalk that up to fatigue and the compressed schedule. And I believe that too. That's why I'm not worried about what this team looks like coming out of the break, because I think the greater concern, and we can dig into this more tomorrow on the Off Ice show, just more broadly talking about this recent stretch, this road trip so far, the absence of Devon Toews and Gabriel Landeskog. How big of a difference does that make on this team? Is it something they cannot overcome? Is this team just not a dominant hockey team without Gabriel Landeskog leading the way? And I do think that they suffer greatly when he's not in the lineup. I think his leadership is so valuable, but I don't think that the absence of those two key players is the reason they've lost tonight. I think, again, going back to what we said in the intermission, self-inflicted, poor decisions with the puck. That's what I mean by that, very specifically. And so, there's errant passes to nobody, indecisive passing too, that I think is why the timing is sometimes off. And so even though I felt in the second period they were creating better offensive chances, there was even a good series of chances at the start of the third period, but it wasn't sustained. And you don't win the hockey game or play with pride if a single shift is good. And so the bad ones, I think, were more obvious in the hockey game tonight. There were more bad ones than there were good ones. And Scott Wedgwood had just a human night in net. Like, I don't think he was terrible, but it wasn't his best night. And he just didn't get the support in front of him to give himself a fighting chance too. Like, he wasn't going to be the goaltender that wins them this game. On the other hand, Jakub Dobeš was a huge reason Montreal found success. But credit to them, they were opportunistic and capitalized on the Avs' self-inflicted mistakes. And that's what it boils down to. Like, there are frustrating things and this game's not even over. There are frustrating things with the way this game comes to an end, when things just kind of unravel and reach that point that feels like there really is no return. Because the Ross Colton goal, there was still a pretty steep mountain to climb to get back in this game, but it energized them.
Don't you find the timing of this comment odd, given all the opportunities you had to send that over the last 2 months to pick the night he finally scores to say, where's Ross Colton? I did just find that a little funny.
Interestingly, too, elevated to that second line. It's his first game back after missing a couple. And I think that it was recognized the guys that had their legs under them and didn't, and Ross Colton had a little bit of jump. And I think that's why this goal is effective, successful in beating a goaltender having a great night. It starts with Val Nichushkin protecting the puck along the wall, doing a lot to evade his skater, protect the puck, skates it below the goal line, gets that centering feed to Ross Colton, who had to battle Guerilla at the net front just to kind of stake his claim there. And then he's able to beat Dobeš in close. And so that's a huge credit to Val Nichushkin, who had a goal in the Ottawa game, battled on this play, and Ross Colton finally putting one in the back of the net. and fighting a little bit, to earn it. So I don't know. I don't have an issue with Ross Colton in this game, especially having come back in after missing time. I think my issue is more so with the guys, that you look to as the stars of the team. They're the ones with some of those mistakes that you don't expect them to be making, uncharacteristic mistakes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And it's funny, and I'm going to reference it again because it was a piece of content that you and I did a couple years ago, actually in the title defense season. When the Avs got off to a rocky start and, you get online and it's sky's falling. They're never going to win a game again. Whatever. And that's a little bit of what's going on right now. If you get on Avs Twitter right now, like it's ugly out there. And, Megan, I want to say this before, we move forward. Cause I think the last two games, last night, and I don't want to, I'm not the coach. I'm not the guy in there yelling at people I'll go as far to say, that's an inexcusable effort last night.
Yes.
That's an inexcusable effort. It's just not good enough last night in Ottawa. And I think you had stretches of this game where you can say you feel the same way, where it's like, man, you just got to be better. That being said, where I think frustration among fan base, among players, whoever, I think that's totally understandable. For people to feel that way. That being said, I'm not worried about this team coming out of the break. I'm not worried that this is suddenly like, oh, this is who the Avs actually are. Look, you're hitting a mid-season slump. There's no two ways about it. And that doesn't, excuse the slump. That doesn't mean that it's okay, that it's acceptable, whatever. But you're hitting a mid-season slump, something that basically is universal to teams in the NHL. You're going to hit a rough stretch in the middle of your season. And I think it's being, and again, this is the part where again, everybody's totally valid in feeling frustrated by what I'm about to say. But I think you've got that. I think you've got frustrated players who, are gripping the stick a little tight and saying, oh God, I don't like the way I'm playing. I got to get to this break. I just, we got 5 more games. We got 4 more games. We got 3 more games. And I just think that guys are ready for some time off. And again, like I said, I'm not saying that makes, it all okay or anything like that, but I just think you have a few things that are kind of stacking on top of each other. I don't think, this is just me, and, people are allowed to, feel however they want to feel. I just don't think that this should be any cause for long-term concern with this team. I also don't think that this shows that the Avs aren't who they showed they were for the 40 games prior to this bad stretch here. As just real quick, Keith Middleton and Arbor Xhekaj getting into it here with 20.3 seconds left after a big hit from Xhekaj on
Arturi Lehkonen.
Oh, really? I thought it was Brindley.
Oh, I thought it was Lehkonen again.
Sorry, I was only half paying attention to the screen there. But like I said, Megan, I think it's a few things stacked on top of each other. That's just leading to the poor on ice results that we're getting right now from the Avs.
I'm just a little confused by one of the comments. But
which one?
No,
call it out.
It's fine. All right. Before this game, 35-7-9, and of some of those losses, including several of the OT losses, they're games where you felt like, the Avs deserve a better fate here.
Mm-hmm.
So handful of those. So I think that all right, around 40 games of really good hockey that you're happy with out of 51 played. Well, it'll be 52 tonight. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's been significantly more good hockey than there has been bad. And if you're looking at then, well, is this just a natural regression to their true form? I just feel like you have to consider the weight of the more good hockey played in volume compared to the, it's more anomalous than that the bad hockey has been in fewer games.
Yep.
Anyways.
Yep, absolutely.
And there's important context. Okay, they were missing Mackenzie Blackwood at the start of this season, and Scott Wedgwood really stepped up in a huge way. And I don't want to gloss over that too quickly. I think that, being without Landeskog and Taves is huge, and it exposes vulnerabilities in the lineup as currently constructed. And truthfully, they just need to dig a little deeper in this stretch. And it's tough because I think there's fatigue that is setting in. And I don't want to look at these elite athletes who play 82 games in a season and demand even more of them. But I think they demand more of themselves. That's why I feel like it's fair to say, it's okay to say, after the result last night against Ottawa, because it was just not good enough and it wasn't Avs hockey, I just wanted to see them play with a little bit more pride. And it was better than yesterday, but it still wasn't very good. It still wasn't pretty. And truthfully, the guys that I look to right this ship are the leaders, and it's the top players. They're typically the ones driving the bus. And I think that's what's been absent from both these games that has been frustrating, a little bit disappointing. Some of those uncharacteristic mistakes that they paid for dearly in this game came at the hands of some of their top players. And so, I'm sitting here crying out for Jack Drury, not even necessarily to score, but just to have an impact on the next goal that's scored, because of the guys who appeared to be playing highly engaged, really committed. It's Ross Colton, it's Jack Drury, it's Parker Kelly. That's great, but that also is a problem 2 games in a row.
Right.
And I'll give Brock Nelson a shout out. He's just been playing great hockey as of late. And I also think that Val Nichushkin, Ottawa, and this game, solely because of his role on that Ross Colton goal, really, that's fine. I need to see better from Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Marty Netchis come to mind.
I think, again, I completely agree with you, especially there in that last part. And I want to get into the goal that really felt like the final nail in this game, because it felt like the Avs were playing better at the start of the third. It actually generated a little bit of momentum. Ross Colton gets a goal. You're back within 2. And then they immediately give one up going the other way. So I want to talk about that in a second, because that was a lot of the top guys. But you made a point there that just made me think about, like, when you were saying, like, I'm going to look at the batch of 40 before as the larger sample size for, this team is much closer to who that is than what we're seeing here, even though the hockey here is not acceptable. It's not good. It's not good enough. All those things are true. But, like, you played for 41 games, half the season, at this level every night. And that was the expectation. And we're going to do this, and we're going to keep doing it every night. We heard Jared Bednar talk about, like, I don't care who the team is, who the opponent is, what time of year it is, what the score is. We're going to play like we're playing playoff hockey. That's really tough to do for 82 games. I think it's caught up with them a bit. I think that it's caught up with them in the sense that they're tired. Like you said, there's fatigue. They're looking ahead to the break, and it's just, they've looked past these games. Like you and I talked about, maybe on the pod, maybe just privately, like, we thought that might be a little bit of a concern of, like, you've got this huge cushion in the standings with a bunch of games in hand. You've played great, and you've got this nice 3, and I think they just look past it. Let's talk about the 6th goal for the Montreal Canadiens, where the Avs get some momentum going. They go back up ice on an odd man rush, and it's just one pass too many. It's one pass too many. You had an opportunity to put a puck towards the net. They didn't. One pass too many. Marty Netchis and Cale Makar don't communicate on the odd man rush. They both end up taking the puck carrier, which means the other player on that rush was wide open. Again, it's just little stuff like that from your top guys. You and I talked in the preseason on a play where Gavin Brindley didn't communicate well coming back. And it's like, that's a young player mistake. That's a rookie who, needs to learn. You got to talk. You got to communicate. You got to make sure you're not both covering the same guy. This is Marty Netchis and Cale Makar. You can't have that happen.
No, and honestly, I don't want to single in on Marty Netchis too harshly here. I think those types of miscues happened all over this game. But going back to that opening goal right off the draw, I think it's another miscommunication with Marty Netchis specifically as to his assignment. And again, that one, as we said, it didn't fall squarely on any one player's shoulders. I think that Malinsky truly, on paper, that would have been his assignment, but because it happened so quickly off the draw with respect to where they were, it happens. On this play, though, it's a couple of things of that. Honestly, the passivity of I won't even say it's passivity on Netches's part, but it is on McKinnon's. So that slot pass is blocked. Thankfully, Burns is able to jump on it and at least make the attempt. But honestly, really great, diving block on behalf of Montreal here to stop this. And so it takes a wild bounce. And you have McKinnon on the weak side that is closest to where this puck ends up going. And he sees it. Suzuki has it at the blue line. He sees he's about to take off with it. And he doesn't move. There's no urgency to get back. And so it's Makar coming back and Netches jumping back. McKinnon has the quickest line back here, second to Makar. Netches, great speed, is able to get back there quickly. And this is where I feel for Netches. He thinks that instinctively Makar will pivot then to cover Carrier. And he can now cover Suzuki. And they just don't talk to each other. So that's frustrating, right? Like going back to Brindley, young player, that's the kind of mistake that mature players and guys who've been playing with each other now for a little bit of time should avoid making. But I think the sheer passivity of McKinnon on this play to just kind of watch and not even attempt to join in defending this rush is weird. And it's just so checked out. And this was exactly what we said. Like, you're not necessarily going to win this game in the third period, but you can at least lose it with a little bit of pride.
Right.
That is a frustrating play to see from someone who was leaned on as such a leader of the Avs.
I'm with you. I saw someone in the chat saying the Avs cushion in the standings is gone. The gap between the Avalanche and the second place team in the NHL is the same as the gap between the second place team in the NHL and the 15th place team in the NHL. So they do still have a nice little cushion in the standings with games in hand on the Minnesota Wild, who are the team chasing them. Sorry, I just wanted to go back to your point of just like, it's the details, it's the pride component. And it's just, again, don't care the time, what time of year it is, a city we're gonna play like it's the Stanley Cup final. We're gonna play against playoffs, and we just haven't seen that for this stretch this month. And they got to clean it up. They got to be better. It's weird. Sorry, I got texts coming in and all kinds of stuff, so I'm just a little bit distracted. Scott Wedgwood, we talked about, came back in. Do you put any part of this on, the Avs give up 7? Like we said off the top, weird bounces, weird night going on. Any issues with Scott Wedgwood tonight?
I mean, like maybe the tiniest of issues, but I don't think enough that makes a difference in this game. The issue is largely with the way the team played in front of him. I think the score maybe would have been closer within a goal or two. And that feels like a hard critique. If your team is playing kind of uninspired hockey, maybe it's a little hard to really get in the game. And honestly, I actually think Scott Wedgwood's above that. So I think it has less to do with that and a little more to do with the way in which it can be demoralizing to have some of those pucks take weird bounces. Like even going into the later goal where the puck goes off Keaton Middleton at the net front, weirdly, like I'm not pinning that on Keaton Middleton. There have been weird plays like this now where a puck, from below the goal line coming out is hitting Avs defensemen and going to very dangerous places that are hard to account for. And so there are things like that. Then going back to this game, that play behind the net with Burns and then off of Manson's skate. Like, honestly, the Avs defensemen need to take Scott Wedgwood out to dinner. They need to do some trust falls. They need to repair things because I don't think anyone meant any harm. It just was not a good night. They need to repair that relationship.
I hate to even bring him up on a night like tonight where there was a lot of guys. What did you think of Keaton Middleton?
Okay, I've gotten like lots of texts about this as the resident Eagles person, like, this is why you don't call up Keaton Middleton. And there have been mistakes. So I'm not going to pretend like there haven't been. I thought the stretch pass in the Ottawa game was really great in setting up what I believe was the Parker Kelly goal. And then there was a back check assignment where he was just a little bit late. But to be honest with you, I think that wouldn't have made much of a difference. And then looking at tonight, bad penalty early in the game cost them. So that's kind of like, okay, this is where Solovyov was walking that thin line too. And that's kind of the difference between them, is now this is Keaton Middleton's chance to do better from what Solovyov did. I don't think we've seen better from what Solovyov did yet.
I agree.
But I don't think it's been as bad as the sense I get on the internet. And so like that play I was just talking about, I don't think it's Middleton's fault. I think it is coincidental and like just really unfortunate. I do think though it's kind of a net neutral leaning towards negative right now, just in this 2-game evaluation, which is tough because they've not been good games from the Avs.
Right.
And it's tough because his style of hockey, the way that he impacts the game, it's going to be different from the way that Jack O'Shawn can. And, you know, maybe in a game where the top guys are not creating the way that you'd like them, you maybe want the added speed and puck skill of a player like O'Shawn. All that to say, I don't know. I'm not gonna come down with like a harsh conclusion on Keaton Middleton right now.
Doesn't it feel like though it's just really underscoring the fact that it's like, yeah, it's not going to be Keaton Middleton, it's not going to be Jack O'Shawn as that seventh. Like they're going to make a move for someone in that spot.
Respectfully, yes. And here's what I like in defense of Keaton Middleton. I felt that before I saw these 2 games. And so it's not like this, you know, these 2 games have changed my view. I think what they need out of that 7th man is kind of a combination of what O'Shawn does well, what Keaton does well. Like I think Keaton, you know, keeping up with the pace of play that the Avs D likes to play with is not necessarily his strong suit. So he needs to remain disciplined and, you know, not put his team at a disadvantage. That's a little bit tough. Even Solovyov was trying to toe that line carefully. Defending like rush coverage, that was tough for Solovyov too. So this isn't me like harshly saying this about Keaton Middleton. You need a guy then who's quick up the ice and back the ice for some of those, you know, dangerous chances, those dangerous rush chances against. But you want him to have a little puck skill like Jack O'Shawn. You know, he's a really dynamic skater. And so, you know, you pay the price then with having kind of an undersized guy that maybe isn't as physical and can physically impact the game. So all that to say, yeah, I don't think they found their unicorn for their 7th D. Who was it who told us? It was from like the 2001 Cup team, right? Who said that the 7th D is low key, like one of the hardest positions to fill, because you are kind of asking for a unicorn.
Well, and you're asking for a guy who it can play like an every night NHLer, but you're comfortable putting in the press box for however long you need to. You know what I mean? So it's a weird spot. All right, we're gonna wrap this one up here, and I got one more question for you, and it's gonna be a teaser. It's gonna lead into tomorrow's show, because we do have a show coming up for tomorrow, and we're gonna talk about this stretch, you know, at large and the skid that we're seeing the Avs on. We're not just gonna, you know, I don't think there's much more to say about this game here tonight. So like I said, we're gonna talk about the struggle the Avs have had this month, right? It hasn't been Avalanche hockey this month, but we're also going to talk about Sam Malinsky and the 4-year extension that he has signed. Megan and I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about it together on air. And here's my question for you, Megan. That's our teasing lead-in question for tomorrow. With the talk that we just had about finding a 7th D, trying to do something different on the back end, you know, with parts of it. Does this contract extension for Sam Malinsky spell a Sam Girard trade at this year's deadline, in your opinion? Or does it, let me ask this a different way so I don't paint into so much of a corner here. Does that, do you think, open the door for them to get creative and potentially have a guy like Sam Girard on the trade block ahead of March 7th?
Yes, and it's felt like it's been building towards that, and this just sort of grants them some future stability. I don't know. It's tough as like you'll lose then another option on the left side, which you're already not
Short,
abundantly. Right. I didn't think, yeah. And it's just a bit redundant though in terms of what they represent on the back end, and you need to have a little bit of different things represented. So that's where maybe in seeing that they need to bolster the left side, and perhaps, you know, I'm not saying there's specifically a need for size here, right. But that's probably the most underrepresented currently, outside of Manson, Burns, who are the big guys. Maybe that's where they decide to look a little bit different, retool, and that just feels like then you have two players very similarly in Sammy G and Sammy M. I was just going to read this Evan Raw tweet.
Do it.
With the post-game quotes from Wedgwood and McCarr. Scott Wedgwood said, "We played well enough to win. That one's on me." Cale Makar said, "Basically all on me, most of them in regards to the leading the NHL in shorthanded goals allowed." I thought those were just really powerful post-game quotes.
Read the Cale one more time.
1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said that he said, I'm the leading goal scorer. I'm the leading blah, blah, blah. But that was, he said. The
team leads the NHL in shorthanded
Yep.
goals allowed. Cale Makar says, "Basically all on me, most of them." That's a goalie loss, Corey Massasak tweets from Scott Wedgwood. That is so weird that our assessment's like, I think this game, I don't think this was Scott Wedgwood's best game.
So I said it in here just to us when the third one went in. I said I would pull Scott here because it just looks like it's not his night. Not because I thought that he was egregiously terrible, that the goals were like so blatantly on him, but I just looked at it and I said, it just doesn't have it. It's just, he's fighting it out there. So I can maybe get why he feels that way. But no, in my assessment, I don't put this loss squarely on Scott Wedgwood.
No.
Like he is trying to do in the locker room.
No. Everyone has a little bit to take away from this game that they didn't love.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's going to do it. We're going to be back tomorrow to unpack a lot more of not just what has happened over the last couple of days, but over this, like I said, this month here, that's been a rough stretch for the Avs. No two ways about it. So we'll be back tomorrow to unpack all of that. 1 p.m. Mountain right here. Same place. She's Megan. I'm Jesse. We got Ashley and John behind the glass tonight, making everything happen, coming to your guys' screens. Thank you so much for tuning in and sticking with us through what was not a great game. If you're an Avs fan, to sit and watch. So thank you for hanging out with us and tuning in both intermissions and after the game. Like I said, we'll be back 1:00 tomorrow to keep talking Avs hockey and what's going on here as the Avs struggle and stumble a bit towards the Olympic break. But also we will talk about Sam Alinsky and the extension. A little bit of good news mixed in there as well, guys. She's Megan. I'm Jesse. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.